Well, hi, church. I want to do a short series here. We have finished up our series in Ephesians. Doug is going to be preaching on Sunday, and so it's kind of a transition week or two here between series. We are going to get into the book of Mark after this once it's all said and done. But I want to do a couple of videos just on topical issues that relate to us right now that people are asking about, talking about. So today I'm going to talk about inflation, hyperinflation, treasures that last, treasures in heaven, eternal value, and things on earth that have none. I'm going to talk the next couple of days about vaccines and whether you should get vaccinated or not, and what to do when your company tells you have to keep your job or whatever, and the way that is managing to polarize and divide people. We're going to talk about the state of our country and where we're at, whether we are past some tipping point or whether we are on the verge of it or whatever. Revival as well as judgment, things like that. But today it's going to be money and inflation. You might have seen, if you pay much attention to the news, and I always tell you not to watch the news, but I also tell you to make sure you know what's going on. And so there's this line that you need to be aware of in your life. Am I obsessing over the news? Am I hitting refresh all the time and constantly checking the news because I'm worried or excited or fearing something, or just because I'm obsessed with it? Or are you checking the news periodically to know what's going on and moving on with your life? I think the 24/7 news cycle that we have is a form of idolatry, that the only thing that matters is right now, and always being on the verge of it and always having to know the latest and the most recent developments of everything. I think that's a form of idolatry, so stay away from it. But it would be ridiculous to avoid it altogether. You've got to know what's going on. Okay, and so one thing that's going on right now is called inflation. It's where money loses some of its value. Everybody has more dollar bills, but they buy less. And they have said over the past quarter, the first quarter of 2021, they measure these financial things in quarters for whatever reason. Inflation is up 4%, a little over 4%, which is extremely high. Typically in a whole year, you don't even reach that much. Inflation means your job might pay you more money, but so everything costs more money. Go try to buy a 2x4, a piece of OSB board at Home Depot or something, and you will know exactly what inflation means if you didn't already. Things are radically overpriced. I bought some paint for my barn back in April, a 5-gallon bucket of it. It cost $60. I went back in May, it was $88, the exact same bucket. Same place, same everything. Okay, that's inflation. Nothing changed about the recipe for paint. Nothing changed about it, but in 1 month, the thing went up $28. All right, whatever. That's inflation. Inflation means things cost more. Maybe you have more, maybe you don't. Depends. You might get a cost of living raise at your job. You might not. I don't know. Another example, I left UPS. I used to work for UPS, the package delivery company, about 3 years ago, maybe 4. I was a manager there. It was a part-time job. It wasn't like a high-up manager. I was paid an hourly rate. I was paid about $19 an hour there for the part-time job. It was fine for part-time. I had a health insurance plan for my family before the church reached the point where I was able to be full-time here. It wasn't a great paying job. That's the point, but it was a fine paying job. 3.5 years ago, $19 an hour was fine. Now their starting rate for an hourly worker is $23 an hour. I was in management at 18. Now the starting rate for new hires is 23. That's inflation. Yep, great. Everybody has more money, but your money doesn't go as far. Okay, so biblically speaking, what does that mean? What does that tell you? What is the wisdom of this age? What are people saying, and what do we do about it? Okay, here's another example of inflation. The Bank of Zimbabwe, the Federal Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, a couple years ago printed these things. This is a real piece of money. This is not fake. It is $100 trillion. You can see it if you're watching a video. If you're on a podcast, you have to take my word for it. It is a bill. It's a piece of paper money that says $100 trillion. Okay. You can see it up in the corner. That's a 1 followed by, I don't even know how many zeros that is. 1, 2, 3, a lot of zeros. $100 trillion. And this thing was good for about a loaf of bread. That's what you could buy with this. Okay. Here's another bill. A friend of mine gave me this. He said this is worth about 10 American dollars. This is a $5,000 bill, Lima Ribu Rupiah, whatever, however you pronounce it. It is from the Bank of Indonesia. Where's the, see that, where I'm covering up, sorry. This Bank of Indonesia, $5,000. It's worth about 10 American dollars. That is what inflation means, okay? It's a real thing. It happens in countries all the time. We aren't anywhere near that in America right now. 4% inflation is incredibly high. It means you just got a 4% pay cut. It means your money is worth 4% less than it used to be. Okay, so we aren't at the hyperinflation where they're printing $100 trillion bills or even $5,000 bills, but we're on the road that leads in that direction. You're always on a road. Every road has a destination. Inflation goes that way. Okay, is it reversible? I hope it certainly is. I hope they actually reverse it. That remains to be seen. Okay, I'm not trying to create a panic. I'm showing you, talking about the news and showing you reality in countries around the world of our present day. Okay, and there's no immunity to it. Oh, that happens in other countries. It won't ever happen in the United States. Blatantly untrue. It can happen anywhere that you get your monetary policy wrong. The primary people that do that are called the Federal Reserve. We have them. Zimbabwe has them. Indonesia has them. I think every country has a Federal Reserve. All it takes is a couple people doing some goofy stuff, doing a favor to somebody, or just simply making a mistake, and you all of a sudden have inflation. All right, that's all it takes. We have all the ingredients in place. It could absolutely happen here. There's no reason to think it could not, other than pride, and that's a bad reason. Okay, biblically speaking, the whole book of Ezekiel, by and large, could be condensed down to here's what it looks like when God judges a nation's currency. The whole way through, especially at the beginning, he talks about these famines, and he does this thing in Ezekiel 4 where he has to eat like extremely minuscule rations of food. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but he has these very small portions of food that he eats because inflation. There's a famine. A famine is another word often for inflation. You don't have enough money to get what you need to survive, and it's called a famine. Okay, it's a commonplace thing historically. It's commonplace present day, and it's a thing. So what does the Bible say about this? The Bible says a ton about money, right? It says a lot about it. And so I want to talk about that. I live by a rule, and we operate our church budget by this rule, and I always recommend it to people when they come to me about money. I call it the 10, 10, and 80 rule. You give 10% to the Lord outright because he owns 100%, and he lends you 90% to live by. The first 10%, though, goes straight back to him. We call that a tithe. It belongs to Jesus. It's his. It's not yours. It's his. Okay, 10%. Another 10%, I always recommend save the 10% and put it away for a house or a car or some emergency down the road. Okay, and then the 80% that's your cost of living. That's just what it takes to pay the bills, to keep food on the table. 10, 10, 80. Simple little rule. It's a good way to do it. Our church does 10, 10, 10, 70. We tithe 10% to the denomination. We save 10% because we got a building project coming, and we give 10% away to missionary agencies and missionaries around the world. Okay, so we do 10, 10, 10, 70. But anything like that, it's wise. The point being that I'm making is some of it belongs to the Lord no matter what, and I always recommend saving it. But inflation damages your savings, okay? Inflation means, if you all get, what if your next paycheck, you get $100 trillion bill? Then it doesn't matter that you saved $200 last month, and that might have felt like a lot. All of a sudden, that $200 is a meaningless number. It's just so tiny. Okay, so saving is not as important as giving to the Lord. Giving to the Lord is absolutely fundamental, necessary. No matter how bad inflation gets, no matter how bad deflation gets, whatever, 10% goes to Jesus, no matter what, and that is non-negotiable biblically. Okay. The savings, though, is where people get into trouble with inflation, because inflation will bite your savings right into bits and leave nothing behind. And that is why the Bible says a lot about saving, but it says even more about where to save. And it says to save your money where it will not be destroyed. Okay? James says something here. He says your silver and your gold are corroded, right? It's meaningless. It's lost. It doesn't have its value anymore. What you used to value Chapter 5, James 5, I'll just read it, verse 1. Come now, you rich. Rich would be anybody who lives in the United States of America, absolutely, and obviously other places too. Come now, you rich, weep and howl for the miseries that are coming upon you. Your riches have rotted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and your silver are corroded. Their corrosion will be evidence against you, and will eat your flesh like fire. You have laid up treasure in the last days. He does not pull punches here. You have laid up treasure in the last days. So think about this. Is saving wise? Yes. Does Proverbs and other places in the Bible indicate that a wise man is you should save? Yes. But there are powerful warnings against money. There are powerful warnings against hoarding it and finding all your value in it and everything else. Saving versus hoarding, I don't know. There's a line somewhere in there. Saving is wise right up until it's unwise. Saving is wise right up until it's greed, right up until it's a false sense of security. Saving is wise right up until the last days, right? And you're always in the last days. Okay, you're running out of time. You might not be running out of money. Maybe you're wealthy. I don't know. By world standards, you are wealthy if you live in the United States. But you're running out. You might have gazillions of dollars, but you're running out of time. Time to use that money for something eternal. Jesus says, don't store up treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and thieves break in and steal, or the Federal Reserve inflates it away to meaninglessness. That's the same thing as thieves breaking in and stealing. It's a different way of doing it. Okay? Don't store up treasures here. Don't count on it. Don't rely upon it. The day will come when an American dollar bill is worth zero, is worth nothing. The day will come when an American dollar bill is laughed at the same way a Zimbabwean $100 trillion bill is laughed at. It's a piece of paper. It's meaningless. It does not carry any value in its own right. You cannot eat it. You cannot farm it. You cannot drink it. You cannot do anything useful with it. It's entirely based upon the good faith of other people, that when I hand you this piece of paper, you think it has value, and you hand me a carton of eggs or whatever thing I'm buying. If people stop accepting dollar bills because they don't think they're anything, they just think they're pieces of paper, well then guess what? They are only pieces of paper, and they will default back to the value of zero. All right, that will happen somewhere in the United States, sometime in the United States. I hope it doesn't happen right now. I love this country, and I love the security and the peace and the prosperity we've got. But it will happen. Everything will be destroyed one day, and the only thing that matters will be what is done for Christ. All right? So the treasures in heaven are things that cannot be lost. Cannot be lost by corrosion, by rust, by moths, by stealing, by any of that. Cannot be lost. Can't even be lost, just physically lost. Like I'm capable of losing stuff. I don't know about you. I've just misplaced things. Treasures in heaven cannot be misplaced because God owns them. So how do you live in light of inflation? How do you live in light of these things? Number one, continuously and always give to the Lord, because that belongs to him. It's not even yours. So give to Jesus first. Give him every time, no matter what, without fail. Okay? Give to Jesus. When you do that, you are storing up in a bank account in heaven something, some treasure in heaven that will never be lost, never destroyed. Okay? You can't see it. You can't touch it. You can't eat it. It can't keep you alive in this world, but its eternal value is far beyond anything that you're going to ever have in this world. So do it. Do it because it belongs to Jesus, and you'll be robbing him to not do it. Okay? You wouldn't steal, right? You wouldn't steal from church. You wouldn't go into church and rob the offering plate or whatever, would you? I assume you would not. I hope not. Well, it's the same thing if you simply don't give to Jesus what belongs to him. Okay? Think of him as your landlord, and you owe him rent if you want to. If that's a good, it's his. It's not yours. You live here as long as you breathe. It belongs to him. He owns 100% of it. He lends you 90% to take good care of, and he takes care of the other 10%. It's a relief. You don't have to worry about that 10%. It's 10% off your shoulders that you don't have to carry. That's the way to think of it. But another way to think of it is think of it as a long-term investment that will have value, eternal value, forever. So give it to him because it belongs to him. Give it to him because it will bear interest, compound interest for eternity. These are very good reasons that the Bible gives why you should give to the Lord. Okay? Saving is wise. Saving is smart. Saving is biblical. But saving for eternity is more wise, more smart, more biblical. Okay? think that kind of common sense, right? Now, saving in light of inflation, knowing that sooner or later the dollar bill is going to be worth zero, and that it is accelerating towards that right now. I hope it doesn't keep accelerating. I hope we can stop this and reverse it, but I don't know. And it's certainly on your mind when you go to Home Depot or anywhere to buy something, right? So saving is wise, but it doesn't mean you have to save money. It might be wise for you to start thinking of saving things that won't lose their value, things that will still be valuable a year from now. Do you remember a year ago, toilet paper suddenly ceased to exist? People were paying high premiums for toilet paper. All right, I'm not telling you to become a hoarder. I'm not telling you to become some doomsday survivalist that buys everything at Sam's Club and hoards it all. Okay, but there are things that wisdom would tell you. Read your Bible, read Proverbs, all the things it says about saving. There are things that will maintain their value or go up in value during inflation, and there are things that will lose their value during inflation. Durable goods that last, durable tools that work, things that you know you will need in the future that you're going to spend money on anyway. Maybe spend your money now while your money is worth more, and save them so that in the future, when there's a rainy day, you will have something available, okay? Because don't put your trust in currency. Currency is only as good as the current moment, and the current moment isn't always good. $100 trillion bill is meaningless, okay? It's actually worth less than paper. This $100 trillion bill is worth less than a rectangle of paper, of blank paper, because a rectangle of blank paper I can use to write notes, to remind myself of things. I can use a blank piece of paper for all kinds of purposes. This one's already written on, so it's less valuable, okay? Think of it that way. Paper is just paper. Blank paper is more useful than scribbled on paper. All right, so save your paper money wisely and spend it wisely. I'm not telling you to go run the bank and withdraw everything and buy 2x4s with it, but it would be a good investment right now if you were to find a way to do that. I'm not telling you to. I'm pointing out that, hey, paper money has a very passing value. Do not idolize it. Do not put your pride in it. Do not put your faith in it. Do not count on it to still be there when you retire. Do not make your long-term plans based on this stuff. Make your long-term plans based on eternity. That's a real long-term plan. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I'm not trying to panic you. I'm not trying to create some kind of crazy thing or whatever. All that's going on already. I'm not the guy to do this, but you do need to live with wisdom, and you need to stop putting your trust in money and stop putting your trust in the American currency system. It was never something to trust anyway. And neither are 2x4s, and neither is toilet paper. These are all things that will sooner or later be lost, damaged, termite eaten, whatever. They will not hold their value. Only what is given to Christ will hold its value. So invest your money there no matter what. All right. God bless you. If you have more questions about this stuff, I'm happy to talk to you about it or whatever. There's plenty in the Bible that discusses this stuff. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow.